Everyone, it is Michelle Lim here, your resident comedy coach, and today I want to give you guys a little bit of a lesson on one of my favorite comedy techniques called the callback, or what I like to call the loop-de-loop, but it's usually called the callback. Hashtag Carly Rae Jepsen. So a callback is basically where you have a comedy set and you have a joke, and then a little bit later in your comedy set you will like reference the previous joke, right? And you kind of call back to it, and everyone loves a callback. Like audiences really like callbacks. If you've ever been to a comedy show, or you've ever heard like your friends talk about a comedy show and they say, oh, it was really good, and like, they managed to tie it up really nicely, and they had this joke, and then at the end of the show they called, like, they referenced the first joke and it went in like a full circle and it was really funny, then they're talking about a callback. So basically audiences like callbacks because they're not expecting them, probably, unless they've gone to comedy a lot, or if they're like a comedian, then I guess they might expect it. But usually, like, people don't really expect callbacks, and they like it because it's kind of like a little bit of surprise, and they think you're really clever because, like, oh wow, they just referenced this thing that they said a little bit like a while ago. I can't believe they still remember that, right? But they're actually very easy to do when you're the comedian because you're writing the jokes, right? So you know that this stuff is kind of easy to put into your set. So next time you write a comedy set and you've got like one really good punchline, try to make a callback out of it and put in a little bit at the end, and then try to reference that joke again and see how you go. It'd be interesting to see how you guys go with that. But basically, there are two types of callbacks. The first one, and the one that I usually do, is like when you have a punchline, and then at the end of your set, then you refer back to that punchline, right? And that's good. It's like short and sweet. And you might say the punchline again, but in a different context or something like that. But you kind of just refer to it, right? The second type of callback is one where you're kind of referring back to a premise of a joke. So if you've ever watched Ali Wong's Baby Cobra, she kind of does this as well. So she has a callback, but it's not to one joke. It's like a premise that she kind of talks about. It's a theme that she talks about in her set, and then she calls back to that theme. So for me, I like to just do the first one because it's short and sharp, and it's easier for me to make sure that the audience understands what I'm trying to do. And also, if you're like a beginner and you don't have much time, then you probably don't have time to go do the second one, but you can try it and let me know how you go. Basically, what you want to keep in mind with a callback is that you need to make sure that the first joke is a good joke. Like if it's not a good joke and you call back to it, then people might kind of chuckle, and it's kind of like, oh, that's funny, like they're referencing that bit that they said before, right? But if it's a good joke, you call back to it, then audiences really like it. And the reason why you want to make sure that you're using a good joke is because you want to plant the seed. Like if you're referencing a joke which no one got the first time round, they're not going to get it the second time round. So it's like a wasted callback, right? You want to make sure that you're referencing a joke that everybody knows, so that it's really good when you call back to it, because they're like, oh yeah, I remember that joke. That was really good, right? And then people will remember the reference. They'll laugh at the first joke, and then they'll laugh at the second joke, and they'll just kind of remember how funny the first joke was, right? So you really want to make sure that you plant your seeds with a callback, and the way that you do that is to make sure that you're referencing a bit in your material which is very memorable, okay? So don't call back to a bit that nobody remembers, because it's not going to work. Okay, so the second thing that is important to think about is like how long you want to wait before you do the callback. So if you have a really good joke and the punchline's really good, and then the next joke you say is a callback to that joke, like it's okay, but that's not really like a callback. That's more like a lead on. See all these technical terms that you're learning from me today. So that's just like a lead on to the next joke, right? You want to make sure that there's a couple of jokes in between so that the audience has a chance to forget your really funny joke. Not forget it, but kind of put it out of their mind. So when you reference it again, it's like very surprising, like, oh wow, that's so true. It's so funny how she managed to like tie it all up together. See, if you just do it, like if you just do your first joke and then you do the second joke straight away, then it doesn't give them enough time to appreciate how you're kind of wrapping things up. So maybe do your joke and then do a couple more jokes, like 3 or 4, like, I don't know, totally different jokes, go in like a different tangent, and then you call back to the first joke and it'll be really good. So when I do my comedy shows, I always end on callback pretty much. So I do like one joke and then I'll wait like 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes, and then at the end of my set, like at the end of my solo show, then I'll call back to the first joke and everyone really likes it. So that's good. Yeah, so if you're a beginner, I guess you don't really need to worry about how long you need to wait. You just need to make sure that you have a couple of random jokes which are not related, and then you call back to the first joke. And I guess it kind of depends on if the audience is smart or not. But usually audiences are pretty clever, so they should be okay. Like if your audience has a really like short attention span, and you try to do it at the end, well then at least you know for next time that maybe it's too long, or maybe the seeds that you planted at the beginning were not strong enough, right? You need to make sure that it's really obvious what you're calling back to, otherwise they're not going to get it. And then the last thing that I wanted to just talk about was like how many times you can call back. So usually I just do it once. Like I just say my first joke, and then at the end of my set I'll say the callback to the first joke. I think it's good because it looks more unplanned. It looks like you're really clever and you kind of just thought of it and you're calling back to the first joke. If you do it more than once, and I've seen people do it more than once, and it usually works at least like maybe 2 or even 3 times. But then I think it looks too staged if you keep calling back, because the first time they did it, it's like, oh wow, that guy's really clever. He's just kind of thought of this thing and linked it back. But then you do it the second time, then they kind of know, oh, you've already planned this. And you do it the third time, they're like, okay, well, it's not really that spontaneous anymore. So that's my bit on callbacks. Have a think about what you want to do. I think it's a really good tool, and it's like so easy to do. All you have to do is get your best joke of your set, and then just think about, how else can I use this? How else can I use this joke? So I'll give you an example. So one of the callbacks that I do in my set is, I have this joke about people spelling my name wrong, because I hate when people spell my name wrong, because my name is Michelle, but it only has one L in it. And I hate when I have to like meet a new person at work, because I always have to explain to them how to spell my name. And there's a really annoying guy at work called Angus, right? And he always spells my name wrong. He always spells it with a double L. Even though I've told him like millions of times, I only have one L in Michelle, right? Every time he emails me, I'm like, hey Angus, just so that you know, my name only has one L. Or hey Angus, don't forget, one L in Michelle. Nothing. Like he still comes at me with the 2 L's. So now I'm like, screw this guy, right? And every time I email him, I just drop the G from his name. Yeah, because it's just one letter, and like doesn't really make a difference. So that's my first joke, right? So I have my first joke, everyone laughs, and then I go on, I tell all these other jokes about other things, and then at the end of my set, I have another joke about ISIS. And what I talk about is like how every time there's a terrorist attack in the world, ISIS always stands up and they claim responsibility, and they always say like, we claim responsibility for this attack. And I'm like, did they even do the attack? It's probably not even ISIS. It's probably just some junior terrorist organization staying back late, putting in the hard yards, and the last minute ISIS just swoops in and steals all the glory. Kind of like at work when you're like kicking back on a Friday night, everyone's having a few drinks, you're swapping a few ideas, and then on Monday, some guy walks in with a full report of all the ideas he's just stolen. And you're like, what the hell, Anus? I thought we were friends. So that's my callback to my previous joke, right? So I don't have to like explain the whole thing. And I don't even say anus in my first joke, right? That's my punchline. I don't say it. People get that, right? They get that punchline and they think, haha, that's really funny. And then I just go on to other stuff. And then at the end, I use the punchline that I didn't say in the first joke, but everybody understands. And then I use it in my callback. And that's how it's like, it's so good. It's like clean and sharp. I don't need to explain it. And that's why I like using the first method of the callback, which is just to use your punchline, which you haven't said, in your like final joke, so it wraps it up really nicely. Anyway, that was my little spiel about callbacks. If you have any questions, please ask me, and go and do that. That's your homework for this week. Okay, go make sure you make a joke with a callback in it, and let me know how you go. All right, thanks. Bye.